Hello everyone, welcome again. We are now going to start with our first session on transition impact on large enterprises. Before that, a brief introduction. I am Amrita Singh, Senior Program Associate, Just Transition at iForest. So for this session, we have with us our chief guest as Mr. Shri Sudhendu Sinha, Advisor, Infrastructure, Connectivity and Electric Mobility, Niti Aayog. For the panels, we have Ms. Kaushalya Nandakumar, Chief Operating Officer, Mahindra Electric Automobile, Mr. M.S. Shankar, President and Group Head, Innovation and Technology, Anand Automotive, Mr. Vaibhav Raheja, Joint Managing Director, Napino Auto and Electronics Limited. Before the panel starts, we have a brief context-setting presentation by Ms. Mandvi Singh, who is our Program Director, Energy and Climate Change, iForest. And she is also going to moderate the session. So, Mandvi, I invite you to start the session.
So if you can put up my slides. Oh, okay. So after that very energizing inaugural session, there is a broad consensus that our speakers have kind of established on the inevitability of this transition. We get into thematic sessions now. Each of the sessions following this will focus on one specific segment of the manufacturing industry. The first session is, of course, focusing on the large ACMs. The idea is, in this context-setting presentation, I will just break down some of the specific results that Atika and CB had previously talked about, which is basically the mapping that we did of ACM members in terms of the impact that this transition is likely to have on their businesses, given their product portfolio. And in the panel discussion that follows, we'll try and further deep down into the role that these large ACMs are likely to play in this transition. So the impact assessment methodology really looked at assigning impact scores to each of the enterprises that we studied based on the impact score assigned to the sub-assemblies that they were manufacturing. So essentially what we did was we categorized all two-wheeler, three-wheeler and car components into 20 sub-assemblies based on each of the parts that sort of were involved in their sort of manufacturing. And then we understand, of course, each component has varying degree of impact, depending on some of them are getting repurposed, a lot of them are getting phased out, and some of them will continue to remain to be used as it is. The assigning of impact scores to each subassembly, it was based on the impacts on each part in the subassembly, which was scored. And then each subassembly was assigned the impact score based on the proportion of impacted, non-impacted, and repurposed parts. After that, we mapped all the enterprises based on their product portfolio. This involved essentially looking at the members of ACMA, which was 845 to be precise, the total number of ACMA members, of which we mapped the product portfolio of 729 large enterprises to look at what is this impact going to be. And then these enterprises were assigned a score based on the sub-assemblies and the vehicle segment that they were involved in. And the impact score ranged from 0 to 1, with scores above 0.6 indicating high vulnerability, 0.3 to 0.6 moderate vulnerability, and below 0.3 minimal vulnerability. The data, sort of the findings were already shared by Atika in the first session, but because there are many new faces I see here right now, I'll just repeat the broad finding. We see that about 34% of the enterprises will be highly impacted in this transition, and these are the ones involved in sub-assemblies that will be highly impacted in this transition, largely engine-related, transmission-related, driveline-related manufacturers. there are 13% who are moderately impacted, and then there are 53% of large enterprises which are not impacted in this transition, which are largely body-related manufacturers, general purpose parts-related manufacturer, then molding and process-based activities related manufacturers. And then lastly, in terms of their geographical distribution, we see that these are primarily concentrated in 6 states: Haryana, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, and Karnataka. But these states account for sort of 86% of the total samples that we were looking at, and the largest number of highly impacted enterprises are in Haryana, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu. However, UP and Delhi are the most impacted in terms of the proportion, as you can see. Now, with this baseline information, I would like to invite all the panelists to the dais, and also our chief guest. Sir, if you can please join us. Yeah. Ms. Nandkumar, please. Mr. Shankar and Mr. Raheja. So with this baseline information that I've shared in terms of what our secondary mapping of components is saying, let's discuss a little more in terms of what is the role that large ACMs and enterprises are likely to play in this. Because it's a unique segment in this conversation. They have the resources, that is the assumption. But is there the technology is available? Is the drive available? Or is it sort of at the pace that Mr. Kant was earlier talking about? So I'll begin this conversation, and we'll have one question for each panelist here. And I'll come back for the second, and then we'll have some questions from the floor. So I'll start with you, Mr. Shankar. I believe you have some slides for us to guide you through the opening remark that you want to make. If you can pull up Mr. Shankar's presentation. You'll like to do it from there? I'll do it. Just, can you use this? Yeah. This works? Just 1 second, and just Yeah. I'm not sure. Yes.
Okay, the answer to her question, short question, is a slider, one slider. We need to unlearn to learn, because the business is different, and as she said, the powertrain is different. It's a different animal. Though the electric motor the powertrain got invented much before the IC engine. So we are bringing it back after almost, okay, we need to bring it back almost after 80 into 3. There is a word that 80 years is very critical from MIT. So in the third round, it has come 240 years later, the electric motor is up for driving. So what is the critical insights that we have got? We need to adopt an agile way of working like a startup. The current mindset has to be shifted to generative from detractive. Detractive, I'll show you a slide. Detractive is complaining, ye nahi hai, wo nahi hai, I need government support, etc., etc. So my belief is you need not have anybody's support. You need to be independent. That's the first mindset. So second is a structured collaboration amongst automaker, tier 1, and material innovating companies who are real megalomaniac, mega-sized corporations. There has to be a collaboration. And here is a mindset change from demanding to learning together. You need to dump, I already know it. I already know it can kill anybody. And most important is behavior. Engage in a structured dialogue. This is one of my most motivating things. Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, all the men and women are merely players. We have got our entries and exits. I'm twisting it a bit, flipping it on the head. Each of us is being watched by our customers. Customer as in a consumer who uses our product. For me, it's not Mahindra or Tata or Hyundai. It is the user of the vehicles. I need to know. So what does he expect us? He expects us to be this. This is borrowed from my community. That's the Visionary Leaders for Manufacturing. We are 600 plus people. And we believe that this is how we should think. One person has to think control, incremental improvement, and breakthrough. So this is all about the mindset. Second is we always talk of jargon words and then get confused. How do I do it? Simple. There is something called, we learned it in our first year engineering in thermodynamics, what is called as the systems dynamic model. The systemic dynamic model tells it's customer-oriented behavior, it's design thinking, from unmet needs of a customer to an innovative new product or service. This, Mandvi, is my answer to a question. We need to work in a structured manner. This is, again, I am repeating it. This is something that we at VLFM have created, that this small crack team of commandos have to look at technology change, global change, and regulatory change pushing us. Look at societal change, environmental issues, and manufacturing. This is 2009 we created this, and we 600 people use this on a daily basis. So this is the change, that internal change is required, not alone of technology. Technology comes last, mindset comes first. In conclusion, product or service is a function of opportunity, preference, and competition. Need to go and chase all this. Effect is a function of causes, effects, y is equal to fx, and therefore a customer need is a function of experiences. Do we need to know experience as a customer? Jolly well we need to do. The customer could be an inverter in a company, the customer could be a fitter who is assembling the parts, the customer could be you and I who do not know engineering but would like to drive a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. This is something, is a very sharp psychological tool that we use. I've used it from moving from detractive mindset down there, judging, proving, complaining, to generative mindset. This is a tool that we ought to use. I'll repeat it 10 times. At the end of the day, I think we are all ordinary people. We need to break out from within. So that is my mantra for an answer to your question, Mandvi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shankar. I have some follow-up questions, but I'll come back to you in the next round. I'll come to you, ma'am. Can you speak a little bit from your perspective? What is the current outlook of the Indian EV industry? And then what is the role that you see large OEMs playing in that context, in this transitions context?
Yeah, I think the morning sessions were obviously super energizing to hear Dr. Qureshi and Amitabh can talk about it. I think EVs is an idea whose time has come. It was, of course, it actually was the predecessor for ICE engine. So in terms of that, I think it's about the acceleration and adoption curve. And I want to step back and, like Mr. Shankar talked about, it all starts at the consumer. And EVs are a technology that consumers genuinely love to adopt, right? So in terms of driving pleasure, in terms of how the technology actually creates a noiseless ride, in every aspect, EVs can offer consumers the kind of experience that you would want as an auto OEM to deliver in terms of sheer drive and ride pleasure. It's also an opportunity to bring a lot of new age technology, a lot of features to the customer, which in a way democratizes the whole process of technology access, right? So from that point of view, I think the commitment that the industry and the government is showing to the EV transition is very real and very, very significant. With respect to how that transition is happening, it's obviously happening faster in certain sectors and it's moving a little slower maybe in the four-wheeler sector, but it's a very nascent industry. So from that point of view, we are very committed as OEMs. The investment that OEMs have announced in the space, Mahindra has announced in the space, we have two separate units. One is for our last mile, which has the three-wheeler portfolio. We have an e-SUV portfolio. We have two separate companies, both committed to the electrification of both SUVs and last mile, and significant amount of the industry players have committed to the space. So that transition is happening. All the key levers are being put in place. The customer delight element is very apparent for those of you who've driven an EV, and I hope a lot of you here have tried, and if you haven't, please do. It's a sure product experience that is quite unmatched. I think the main challenge for us is that, like any new idea, it's also about the ecosystem play. And that's what, in terms of our partners who come on board, the charging ecosystem that needs to come into play. Mr. Amitabh also talked about it, right? If your EVs could charge just like you could fill fuel in a ICE engine, then it would be like a sheer delight, right? Today, that is in some ways one of the bigger barriers for adoption. So if the way the commitment has happened, by 2030, we are looking at a 30% adoption of EVs. That trajectory has already started. That acceleration has started. It's a good confluence of public policy supporting OEMs' actions on the space. And I think that's definitely a great trajectory. And India may, as always with digital adoption, may buck a curve and do some things faster than even global economies will.
Thank you so much. Mr. Raheja, we heard the OEM's perspective, and maybe you can bring in the ACM's perspective in terms of the financial and technical strength of ACMs and large enterprises to actually participate in this transition and thrive, like OEMs have sort of have already been part of this transition. What is your take on this in terms of the capacities of OEMs to kind of already be part of this transition that is taking
OEM
place?
or
Sorry, ACMs, yeah.
So basically, what Mr. Shankar said, I just slightly differ from a point of view that the government has to support any change in the industry. Without the government being a part of it, we saw it in China, we saw it in US and sector countries, that the whole ecosystem has to be developed. And of course, the winner out of it is with one's self-capability. And, that's, so I was actually in China till yesterday night. And it's always a good learning to go to a different country to see what is happening there and what is not. So the government did support. They are, 30% option. They are at currently 30% option 4-wheelers concerned, and approximately 80-90% option where 2-wheeler and 3-wheelers are concerned. 3-wheelers are a very small part of it. So, but out of the 400 odd companies that started making 4-wheeler as well as 2-wheeler electric vehicles, only about 20 odd or maybe less than 20 4-wheeler companies in the EV have been able to survive. And that is where the self initiative and the ability to innovate oneself comes. The initial industry took shape because of the government funding initially, and that is what is happening with India as well. I mean, the FAME 1, FAME 2 basically made everyone in the industry interested in investment, and the first kickoff did happen because of that. And sure, it is a big challenge to basically increase the adoption from where we are currently to where we want to get to, which is of course everyone's objective. And like you see right now, most of the OEMs are in a negative unit economics currently working, which is a little unfortunate, but there is a long-term perspective to the game still to be uncovered yet. Having said that, the impact that such transition happens to auto component supplier like ourselves at Napino is that we have been investing in adoption to newer technology in terms of EV since 2016 onwards, and now we have started basically seeing good results for that yet. So like I said, I mean, we want the market to succeed, the OEM to succeed, and then only we, as auto component we will be able to make money. So the efficiency that is driven in terms of design, development, manufacturing is what we are working on right now. Of course, the adoption, the biggest hurdle, as we all know, is the initial cost. Why 3-wheelers have been picking up is because the total cost of ownership in the long run, because it's been used day in day out by fleets and etc. So that makes sense for three-wheelers. But for two-wheeler retail users and four-wheeler retail users, it still is not making complete sense, and it's on the verge of making sense for them. So and where the unlearn to learn also should come as at the user level. They should see the long-term perspective in getting an EV, and the total cost of ownership will of course come down. So I think there is a good scope for a lot of EV adoption coming in from different segments. And as a auto component supplier, I think and especially in the electrical category in which I come from, the scope is the per unit contribution in the vehicle to increase like threefold from where I see. So I am like any electrical component supplier, very bullish upon the EV industry too well, because that's where my revenue will increase in the future.
Thank you. Sana sir, if I can bring you in for a quick comment on what is your take on the issue of just transition in EV sector.
So at the onset, let me congratulate iForest for organizing it. And as I was being shown, that if 6, of their officials, if they put in solid 365 days, and they have come out with some 7 small booklets on multiple aspects of this transition, then it is going to be definitely meaningful. I mean, I have no doubts on it. So from the government perspective, if I might tell you, and this room is like, it's like a doctor coming to his own operation theater, because the same room I've spoken, I don't know how many times. So if you see that when we were 100% sure that electric mobility is going to be the call of the day, the country should be switching over to this particular technology. And gradually we kind of, we ourselves learned that what could be the initial kind of, how could we kick it off? So the first understanding did come that, okay, we were talking to all the people, we were going rounds and rounds, we were talking to all over the world people, like how exactly they did it. And when we were starting, some 34 odd countries of the world had already done it. I mean, they were going quite ahead of it. So we decided that if we want to have an understanding of the entire thing, and it did come to us that probably the first thing that is needed is that among the people, among the users, among the customers, we should create them a craving to demand for EV. At least to wait for a while and see that, okay, can EV also be an option? So EV as an option, that was the first thing that we wanted to go ahead with. And if you see our schemes, the government flagship programs, all of them are structured around that. So FAME 1, 895 crore rupees, 5 years. Same, asking them to for the demand. FAME 2, 11,500 crore rupees in 5 years. In next few days, it is going to close down. Another subset of it, I mean, an add-on to it, I would call it. So it is what they call the promotional scheme. Next 4 months, 500 crore rupees, again on demands. We are already trying to run through that. Okay, let's see that whether FAME 3, the new version, can be there for a few years, let's say. So again, focusing on demands. So demand was supposed to be a cardinal point. That was there. But we also realized that with this demand, we can at best be a country that is using EV. We cannot transform ourselves into the global manufacturing hub for the world. So if we want to do that, then we have to kind of support our manufacturers, our component manufacturers. We have to ensure that the production starts right in this country, with control over the supply chain, with all the best of the world's quality parameters into them, with a kind of cost which is competitive, and finally that there are ethical standards to it. So if these four things are there, then we knew that our product is going to sail through. It is a challenging thing, and not it is easy. So we ran through two more supplementary kind of schemes. They were the PLI schemes for automobile and automobile components and for the advanced chemistry cells. The idea was very clear. The idea was that we want to become a manufacturing nation. The challenging point was that it was riddled with a lot of issues, you see. The very fact what Mr. Shankar was saying, that to initiate, to trigger that leap of faith is not an easy task among the manufacturers. To tell them that you can jolly well do it, and you can, India can be among the best, this is not an easy task. But they could see that it was a team effort. In last 2 successive years, we have surpassed Germany and Japan to be now world's kind of close of 3rd or 4th in the automobiles. That is what the status is. But the point is very simple. We want more of Indian vehicles, not 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, but 4-wheelers. The best of our vehicles to be in the Western geography also. And they are happening, not that it is not. So if Indian OEM goes and sets up a manufacturing facility somewhere in Spain or in UK and rolls out a bus which is of Indian make, then that brings a tremendous, showcase. It showcases that Indian automobile, no more, you see, Stuttgart, Baden-Württemberg, Detroit, these are the regions which could be world's hub for automobile. It can be Aurangabad also, it can be Pune also, it can be Manesar also. These areas can also grow forward. So that is what the idea is. So my sense is that, yes, the kind of just transition which you mentioned, it needs to go for a just transition. By just transition means that the transition should be in a way so that it does not adversely impact one particular sector. Number 2, all of them should be moving forward in the same way. So be it business, be it workforce, be it environment, wherever the impact is there, that has to be, that it has to be taken care of. In all the areas it should be taken care of. And my sense is that the way we are working, all the stakeholders, and of course, if I were to congratulate, I would first say the industrialists, those who are right at the manufacturing base, those who are at the assembly line. So to me, they are the one who are leading it from the front. And my sense is that very soon when I say, in 2 to 3 years, not a big time gap. In these 2-3 years, you would see for yourself what a big traction is going to bring about. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Shankar, I'll come back to you for the second question. You, in your address, mentioned the need for dialogue platforms and for structured thinking. Now, obviously, within an enterprise also that's important. But if I talk about the sector as a whole, do you think that structured thinking is already there in the sector in terms of planning for this transition? Or do you think those structures need to be now created by some sort of external body, whether it is the government or industry associations itself?
3 points. Hello? Hello? Yeah. 3 points over here. Number 1, there are enough bodies, whether it is the quasi-government body, whether it is the government body, who have started thinking and created a platform for dialoguing. So people have started coming together. The research you have done with ACMA is amazing. That's what we were looking for. The Indian-grown companies, especially Mahindras, Tatas, Ashok Leylands, Olas, Bajaj, Hero Motors, they have started creating a platform. And here is something I would say, it was started with the thinking of Dr. Vijay Govindarajan, world's number 3 thinker, in what he called as the third box. 25% of the people who know the ethos of the company, they are pulled out and given freedom to fail. Success comes after failure, failure comes after success. So we need to choose what do we want. So better to fail first. So those platforms have started coming in. Question is, are these platforms just becoming talk, or are they in a workshop mode? The moment you get into a workshop mode, things have started happening. A fabulous initiative has been taken by ACMA. Pooja, Vinny ji ko namaste keh dena. Fantastic platform of leveraging startups. 4 years, we have visited some 176 startups in Europe, China, Taiwan, around 350 in India. And I'm extremely thrilled to say that we are tied up with 6 of them to come up with breakthrough models of business. Technology comes next. So this platform is there. However, this platform is now ready for a nuclear fusion. We need many more platforms. One of the platforms that is missing today from a ACM perspective is it has to migrate 2 levels down. These platforms have been at leadership level. It has to come down to supply chain. Supply chain is still transactional, that L1 stuff going on. That is terrible. But here, I would say, ACM guys, we have to take the first leap of faith, as you said, sir, to say, what is the customer not saying? And a small example I can give with an OEM we did. They were working with a electric drive unit costing around 36,000 rupees. What he wanted was an electric drive unit at 20,000 rupees. If you call him crazy, the ACM guy is at fault. I'm at fault. But you need to understand why he is doing that. And there is a simple methodology which is taught at MIT Media Lab, which is taught at Harvard Innovation Group, which is taught at Tel Aviv University. And it is called as challenging the past respectfully. So the question is, if an EDU has got 5 parts, can you eliminate 2 of them and give him a product that is half the cost? So this is a challenge that happens in a workshop. It cannot be done alone. So this is lacking today, and this is where, at least from the ACMA community, we are trying to push people into various clusters and do it. And as sir said, less than 3 years, we will find a disruptive explosion taking place. I'm very confident of that.
Thank you so much, sir. Miss Nandkumar, I'll come to you for the second question, which is that, Mahindra has moved on, to many segments of EVs, which is three-wheelers and SUV segments that you mentioned. For you, what were these disruptions? What were these synergies that you experienced in this transition, not just from your perspectives, but also from the ACM's perspective? If you can shed some light on that. And service networks also, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I think, so as a group, obviously, we are very committed to EVs, but we do have a nice portfolio. We do see that consumer segments have different adoption rates, different needs, and therefore, while we are growing our EV portfolio, we are also supporting with a very strong orientation to the ICE world. So I think it's like the country. There is a transition that's happening internally. And across the value chain, I can see both the disruptions and the synergies happening. So to give you an example, recently in our Research Valley, our R&D center in Chengalpet in Chennai, 1,700 engineers who primarily used to work on, the powertrain, ICE powertrain, were trained to work on an electric powertrain. And we had created labs and training academies and skilling for them. And all of them transitioned to actually be capable and competent to work on the EV or the EPT, as we call it. Now, this is a huge investment in our own people skilling, right? The other thing that we are doing right now is we are looking to tie up with ITIs and design courses and support them to actually get ready for this transition, because talent we need at all stages of the pipeline. So that's something that the group is already doing. And some of the jobs could be ubiquitous with both technologies, and some of them are very specific to EV that we are working on. So that's another initiative. At our manufacturing facility in Chakan, there are dedicated skilling programs that now we're imparting to teams who are manufacturing to get them ready for a new sort of assembly, a new sort of product that comes in. So that's an ongoing training. So partnering with skilling institutes, ASDC, those kind of curriculums are actually now getting designed, and they are obviously available for the industry. So I think in many ways, from the talent part of it or the internal part of it, there is this huge amount of transition capability that we are developing. With respect to dealers, one of the things that struck me in your last slide was about green manufacturing. Electric vehicles by nature are, of course, friendly to the environment, they're zero emission. Having said that, how do you make the whole process a little bit more responsible and better for the planet? So we're working with our dealers to identify things that they could do on safety, health, and environment, and really move them as well into a new transition of green dealerships that we are calling. And there's a lot of support that we're working with them on to get to that point. Similarly, with our network of suppliers, we are very committed to working with them to see how we could actually transition responsibly, and how do we identify where we could support them, whether it's understanding of their carbon footprint or with supporting them with tools and techniques to understand really how they could become a lot more sustainable along with us. Chakan, again, as a manufacturing, that transition is happening to cleaner energy. We are almost 60% energy used in Chakan is renewable. We have water positive, we have zero waste to landfill. Now, as a manufacturer, and very kindly pointed out, as an Indian OEM, we're very proud of this, right? Because in many ways, it's not just about the product, while it is the product, but it's also about everything else in the value chain that we've been working on and committed to that transition. We also are working with our own suppliers, global suppliers, bringing some of that know-how into the work stream. So that kind of also helps this transition to happen, because like Mr. Sinha said, it's very important to realize that now the products that we make are ready for the world. It is no longer about making a product and then saying for the rest of the world, we'll think of what we will do. Products that we build today are ready for the global stage, and that's the vision, to make India a manufacturing hub for the globe. So I think from end to end, we are thinking of each area of synergy and transition and how we could actually enable the foundational levers also to move into that space.
Thank you so much. I think the point of the role that OEMs need to play in the skilling itself, I think that you've highlighted that very well in terms of the steps that you have internally also taken. Mr. Raheja, you mentioned in your earlier, earlier address that one of the bigger challenges is the initial challenge of capital for ACMs to transition into this business. Have policies like PLI and FAME helped large ACMs like yourselves? Or is there more that you would sort of urge the government to put up?
I think policies like FAME and PLI has made a huge impact. I mean, that's why we are here, at this platform right now, talking about the transition from ICE to EV. And of course, it has made a huge impact in terms of billions of dollars have been invested in creating facilities and capabilities to be for example, I mean, our percentage of R&D spend in terms of turnover has really doubled in a couple of years. And everyone knows, the margin currently in the automotive industry is not that huge, but still investing a huge, sum of money to be able to basically, get into the, get your parts into the EVs. It's been tremendous in terms of the investment that we have done, and we have been successful in basically, getting returns out of it. So, policy that government have been forming has made a huge, contribution. But what's next is, what everyone is waiting for. Of course, the purpose might be different. I mean, currently, like Sir said, the purpose was to basically ensure that demand is there. And that has been proven now. The demand is there, for sure. On the second point, what Sir made is to, make our products global for any country. I mean, we can match any country in terms of our product quality and technology is concerned, and I am pretty much sure that we can. Now, I mean, it's not only the policy that government is supporting in terms of subsidies and capital, it also the environment and the policies government is creating around product certification in terms of the safety of the product, in terms of the newer policies according to which we have to make our products. Now, if the government is very clear about this is what we want from now on, we all work towards it. And that has made our, the things like functional safety, ISO 26262, etc., that we have invested in. And so those technologies, those ideas, those processes were not with us earlier. And because the requirement came to be, basically make the products more safer for the, the fire hazard and everything has to be, mitigated. For that, we have worked a lot in terms of collaborating with, companies outside India. I mean, it can be US, it is Europe, and we have done that. We have, apart from investing millions of dollars into our own R&D, we have also collaborated with other countries, because it has to be a collaborative approach that we need to be done. So we have made product that is now basically fit for products to go in India and as well as the global market, and I'm pretty much sure about it. So that objective is on its way, where I can see. Of course, there are a lot of smaller companies which don't have that resources that we had, fortunately, back then. But they're also, see, if a big fish moves towards someone, the smaller fish obviously follow. So that process is also happening. And next is what the government, in which direction the government will take us next is we are all waiting for, because they are the trendsetter, and then we have to, follow what they say basically.
Sure. Thank you so much. Mr. Sinha, now coming to you. You did talk about efforts towards demand expansion. You did talk about efforts towards supply growth. One of the things that the study is sort of bringing out is that the effort needed at the skilling front, because the impact at the aggregate level as we transition between these two products is that the total number of jobs are not declining by a great margin. In fact, they would increase perhaps because as the adoption of EV expands. But the key thing is that from the workers' perspective, they are moving up in the job roles, in the sense that there's much more requirement for skilling that would be needed, whether it comes through from OEMs or whether there could be other structures built for taking it up. So in your chief guest remark, if you could just please talk about that a little also.
So again, on that stream, I would say, but allow me to say, to take just 1 minute maybe on the topic that was being discussed earlier, which was the R&D initiative kind of thing. So let me put it this way, that electric mobility is the conveyance is R&D. So it has to be that technologically we have to be always, ahead of the curve. Then only we can take it forward. Then only we can think of becoming world's best. If you recollect our finance ministers, honorable finance ministers, this interim budget, there are very few Hindi expressions which she used. But she did talk about Jai Anusandhan. She said, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan. So Anusandhan word, that R&D word, she has added for the first time. It has been added in the budget. So the focus is now very clear. From NITI side, what we did was, earlier only, since a couple of years back, we encouraged the IITs to open up centers of excellence. And today, out of this particular nudge, 16 out of 23 IITs that are there, they have opened up centers of excellence. We are aware that the OEMs will definitely work. They will work, their CTOs will work just to improve upon that, what cost-cutting measures can be taken, how precisely, what can they do at the assembly line, those things they will work. But the point is, if something beyond is there, as it was being told that if it is 30,000, how it should be 20,000. That is what the challenge is. So on those things, naturally, the big technical institutions, they will have to work. And as it was told, not in isolation, but along with the OEM. So that is the one thing which I wanted to say. On the skilling point, let me put it this way. We want to be also the skill supplier for the world. So it is not that only we want, that in India, within India, whether it is a domestic or in a global company which is setting up the manufacturing bases, only in those the workforce is Indian. No, we want that if something is coming up abroad, if there is let's say in Germany, maybe in Hungary, if a new advanced chemistry cell manufacturing facilities coming up, there also the worker has to be Indian. If you see, then on the top end, the science and the R&D initiative, that portion, Indians are already there. So that area and the management area, they are already there. We have to ensure that even at the mid ranks and the lower ranks, our people go over there. They can. Because after all, we see, the point is that they are not so demanding and they are aware that they can keep Indians, at a relatively cheaper cost than what they otherwise spend in European or maybe American geographies. But the quality has to be given that thing. So yes, very rightly put it. We are encouraging almost all the states to go in with the help of corporate or maybe their government financing, to go in for skilling centers, big skilling centers. In fact, we are encouraging them that go in for exclusive women skilling centers, which could be in multiple areas. It could be starting from driving to that of, creating a battery pack or a battery unit. So up to that, in all the streams, we want that skill to be kind of honed in. But naturally, that would require, number one, assistance from the technological and ITIs, and number two, the help of the OEM, because after all, these are the skill sets which cannot just be learnt in the classroom. They have to be taken, they have to be right at the center of the field. So that is what the idea of skilling is. Many of them are now, they are forthcoming. They are coming with it. Some of them are still in doubts whether they should not. Because what would happen is that if you develop a skilling center, that will not work. What we'll have to, important two things are there. Number one, that you have to give them some sort of certification which has got international recognition. That is number one. So suppose an IIT certifies, I'm just giving an example, it could be MIT also. If certifies that, okay, from this skilling center, this person is skilled in A, B, C, D trades. Okay. So not that even some of the IITs, they do give skill for lower base. So I know that some of the, say, BTech or MTech people, they are skilled plumbers also certified by the IIT. So he can do the plumbing. So if a big engineer is trying to work on a, say, heater or a cooler, you can't say that, okay, you don't know. He knows it because it has learnt it. That certification is with him. So that certification is needed. That is number one. And the second, as I said, that we have to go in for some sort of employability has to be there. Otherwise, one would say that why do I spend so much of time? Why do I invest? Maybe required, it could be money also. Why do we spend so much for no gains? So the employability and the certification, if they are matched with these two, my sense is that skilling will just take it on a big curve. And some of the states, they are taking it very forward in a very fast forward manner. Others are, of course, it will take some time to emulate. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha, for that detailed description of what it would require to build that skilling ecosystem within the country. I'll open the floor for questions. I have one here up front. Please introduce yourself, sir, and also keep the questions short.
Yeah, Thiru Srinivasan, I'm the CEO of Center for Advanced Automotive Research at IIT Madras, and also the head for the EV task force for Tamil Nadu government. Clearly, the EV industry is growing, the demand side has really helped, and the supply side is helping. It's in a significant way, the PLI schemes. I think the other skilling also we touched upon. One area that many of you touched upon, but I would like to really go a little further, is the R&D. How do we incentivize more R&D happening in the country? Many of us have to go abroad to partner with somebody, and we get second-hand, maybe third-hand sometimes, technology, and it's very hard to compete with that. We catch up, but never can go ahead. Your thoughts from any of you, especially Mr. Sinha, on how can we incentivize R&D in the country, particularly through incentives?
Maybe take one more question. CV has a question, and then we can.
I think the term that Mr. Nandakumar used was responsible transition. Now, how do you see this responsible transition translating to tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers? I'm really talking about micro and small suppliers.
So like, allow me to take on this R&D, that how it can be further incentivized. So, barely a fortnight back, we had a long discussion at Vigyan Bhavan with the Department of Science and Technology was there, and of course Niti was always there. So we have decided that we will be rolling out a kind of plan, the way you are saying, that how precisely in electric mobility that will be exclusive to it. Not that it will be a big overarching frame, but yes, there will be exclusive focus on electric mobility. That what could we do so that our technology, our IITs, our ITIs, our national laboratories, our many of those institutions and OEMs, of course. So all of them can be, their skill sets can be pulled in together, and how precisely this can be taken forward. Now, let me tell you one thing, that there is no paucity of fund. But yes, there is a paucity of creating a good project document so that it convinces the person who is going to sanction and disburse the amount that please go ahead with it. That is number one. Number two is, we will be more interested in some short-term kind of, achievements rather than going in for very, very long time. Not that they are not needed, but maybe if something which will come, say, after 15 years down the line. If you can have more of those kind of interventions, where within a short space, this is the reason why, unlike US, in India, many of the OEMs do not collaborate so easily with you. Because the moment they say with you, you will say, I want a professor, 2 assistant professor, 3 associate, chaprasi. A whole chair is now fixed. That too for 10 years. Now that poor OEM has come for one small thing that has to be solved in a time span of 6 months. You can't create such a big thing for them. So this is needed, that some short interventions are needed. Those long ones we can take care subsequently. So my sense is that in a few months, we will be able to roll it out, and then you can see that what exactly is there, and we will completely load it with a lot of incentives, lot of facilities, so that they are ready to invest themselves into this particular thing and take it forward. Yes.
Thank you. Sure.
To the question, just a few remarks on that. So regarding the R&D stuff, when you talk about taking technology or taking support from other countries, and you said something around the second, third. So actually, that is what is not happening right now. I can proudly say. I mean, see, there are a few reasons that why a company like us takes support from outside. And one of the main reasons is to cut short the learning curve cycle, the timing part of it. And all the agreement that we have done with these technological companies from outside India, most of the agreement is based on an open technology in which we can also work. So firstly, they are also not that far ahead as they were in ICE technology. They are also learning along with us, and hence they are also interested in collaborating. So when we collaborate with them, we are also supporting them in a way. We also give back to them, a solution to the problems which are common to both. So it is not that they are only contributing towards technological advancement, even we are, and hence the amount of money we are spending is making us at par with these global companies. And in terms of what government can do in helping us provide the support in anyone to encourage everyone to basically spend in R&D is basically short term. There's business. I mean, if we invest in R&D, of course we'll get business. That is a view that is irrespective of what the government is doing. Secondly, of course, what we can do is to help structure academia and industry partnership in a way that we are ahead for the next challenge ahead than our peers in other countries. in which they can come to us for solving the next big problem. So that is incentive should be for solving a long-term problems in going ahead with academia. Basically, that is what my idea is.
Thank you. Yes, and if you can.
And I thought, not that it was the R&D question, I think is super interesting. I think the other element is most of the leading technology firms see India as a very large market. And like Vaibhav said, it's also about learning curves. Since EV is relatively new for everyone, they're also seeing this as an opportunity to actually test products together. So I think from that point of view, the consumption curve that India is on, the overall growth curve that India is on makes it a very exciting market. So it's not just in auto, you see global technology firms investing in India for other elements. To your question, I think one of the things that we are trying to do right now is approach it through a collaborative intent. So what we've realized is that when we look at ESG and the kind of journeys that many of us as OEMs have taken, it's also been a journey for us. And how do we now translate that journey, especially into our partner network, whether it's at a dealer front or at a supplier front? So what we are now enabling is really first training. So there is an immense amount of effort that we are now putting into training. We're helping them to then percolate it down to their tier 1 and their tier 2. So it's a chain in a way of virtuous cycle that has to start. There is also a huge amount of awareness that is now coming in globally as well as in India about the importance of various aspects of ESG, from gender to inclusion to sustainability. We are also enabling them to come onto platforms to understand how they could understand their carbon consumptions, how they could reduce the carbon consumption. So there is a collaborative platform that's kind of been developed, which we are using to percolate our learnings as well as learn from them what's working and what's not, and how do we work together to kind of improve the footprint overall. So that's what we are essentially doing to create a responsible supply chain end to end.
Just one request, if I could make to the OEMs. Can you say open up your facility for a day in a week or so, that schedule is left to you, to the nearby class 10th, class 12th school or maybe college? Can you open them up so that those who are interested into STEM, especially, they could come and see that what exactly is going on? Not that it will do anything great to them, but yes, this exposure could, they give them that trigger could be there, that maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line, some of them decides to take into this particular stream, and good number of them will decide to. Maybe if you can expose your facility to them, so that small a tour or an educational tour or learning could be really meaningful.
Thank you. So that's a great suggestion. In fact, Mahindra Group on Founders Day, which is 2nd October for us, opens all plants, all facilities to all employees, families, and friends to come in and actually look at the facility. But your point is taken, and we will create maybe more opportunities for such opening up to the community. Happy to do so.
Just to respond to your question or suggestion, at least in Anand, we have got 23 villages adopted across India, where the theme is empowering the youth and empowering the woman entrepreneur. And across these 23 places, from villages, children are brought at least 3 days in a year, whether it's Children's Day, whether it's Founders Day. And there are regular interactions from leaders from the industry to share so many things. Coming back to Thiru's question on R&D, thank you, sir, for bringing alive the fact that till date, the investments and the support has gone into institutions like IITs and centers of excellence, where industry is expected to go and use it, because the government cannot give it to a industry or an OEM or a ACM. However, what you said is we are looking with bated breath when the government announces support for what we would like to say is TRL 6 to TRL 8. TRL 9 to TRL 10 is definitely the industry's responsibility, but bringing from TRL 6, 7, 8, the government support is very important. It's not about a technology, it is about a concept that is being delivered. So technology is available. There are some very fine support systems like I4F with Gita handles. But when you look at the disbursement, as you said, funds are available, but adequate applications and processing of applications are not available. So I think that is the thing that we look from the systems or regulatory bodies in the government to support us, and we can definitely lead. And most of the 32, 37 affected ACMs, I can assure you, representing them over here, all of us are focusing on the new ventures and some of the old ventures as making India the global design and manufacturing base for our partners. So that's happening.
Thank you so much. I think we can close this session. Final concluding remarks from you, sir, and then we can close this session. I think we're just at 12:30 at this point.
So I would say that, yes, it's good that we are trying to enthuse the component manufacturers and the OEMs, and they are really, I take them to be the real, as I said, the center forward. These industry players, they have to be there. From government side, we are just the framers of the rules. So that is what the best is. But when it comes to the actual playing the game, it is on them to play. And that is why we expect them that, sometimes, as I was saying, that quite at times, you can't be always bothered about your maybe top or bottom line just for the short-term gain. It has to be seen on a longer perspective. And my sense is that please take it that the way we are moving on, this is something that is fabulous in the world of mobility, in the world of sustainability, in multiple areas, but precisely this area where I'm working in. So I can tell you, I will give you an example. Maybe 3 years, 4 years back, I was very rarely you see on an international kind of platform, I used to get an audience. I was always one of those backbenchers kind of thing. And today, next week, World Bank will be changing their rules to listen more from me. So this is what the change is. So it is just to tell you that what exactly, how exactly it is done. It is all a team effort. So with that, with a lot of good wishes, I'm sure that when we meet next, when iForest organizes next convening in the same room, with probably the same set of people, we could say that yes, majority of our issues were addressed. So it is R&D, it was being told. So a lot of things were told from the OEM. So we'll definitely try to see that they are taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for the concluding remarks. And thank you to all the speakers here. A big gratitude from our side for taking time out from your busy schedules and presenting these varied set of perspectives. And we've covered a lot of ground in 1 hour.
From the platform for voicing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, sir. We've got a small...
आपको भी आपका प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना होगा.
yes.